I got that feeling of dread, like it's going to be worse. And then I flew. I was like catapulted in the air, like an aerial missile, because of the speed of the horse, and then him going down, and then just flying in the air. And I never hit the ground. I never hit the ground because I left my physical body. So 1 minute I'm on a horse, I'm falling, and I know I'm going to get clobbered. The next minute, I feel like I left the planet. So it was very shocking and very scary. And I never hit the ground, which is a blessing, because, you know, it was face first into a bunch of rocks in a ditch. So I catapulted off this horse, and I went into a black tunnel at a high rate of speed. And it was, the walls were like fluffy and light looking, even though it was very dark. I could see perfectly, see better than my 20/20 vision. I mean, I saw crystal clear. And I knew that the walls were dense at the same time, and that the tunnel felt endless. And then I got this roller coaster of emotions: fear, fear of the unknown, what is happening, dread, abject terror. And I remember thinking, this is the isolation people in outer space may feel. I know that's a weird thing to run through your mind, but you know, it was pretty horrific. So I go through this very dark tunnel, and then like there's a pinpoint of light at the end, like this like pinpoint. And you know, I could see, even though it was black, and my grandfather was there, standing there waiting for me. And he died when I was 12 years old. He died a horrible death of cancer. He's the most wonderful person on the earth. He was my hero. And it's very hard to talk about it, even to this day, without crying, because it's just so emotional. Because when I saw him, he wasn't a young man. He was like looked like when I was, you know, 5 years old, when he was in health, and, you know, he was in his 60s and he was doing good. And that's how he looked, and how he was dressed the same. And he was just there, you know, like my, oh God, life preserver in the ocean, you know. So I reunited with him. It was very emotional. He said some things that were very personal that I don't really care to share. And I realized when I saw him that I had to be dead. Now that was very unpleasant. I knew that, oh my gosh, I just started to live. This is pretty intense. And then somebody was guiding me behind me, and I'm leaving my grandfather, and he didn't come with me. And things happened that were very upsetting. I had what you call a life review, but it's not like, you know, flipping through a Rolodex every scene of your life at all. What it is you see the effect you've had on others, and you're your own judge. So this isn't a heaven or hell thing. I didn't ever have a religious epiphany when I died. I'm a Presbyterian, raised as a Presbyterian, but I did not have a religious epiphany. So I go through this life's review, and it's pretty brutal. I'm 19. I did the usual selfish crap that kids do. You know, when you're a kid, you think the world revolves around you. You don't think about others enough. And I can see some of the harm that I did. You know, I was rude or nasty, or not rude, but unkind to a little 6-year-old girl. I was 6 at the time, about her doll. We both got the same doll for Christmas, and I said something sharp, and I felt how she felt. You know, a trusted friend had snapped at her carelessly because I was 6. Wasn't premeditated, and I felt her hurt, and I saw the actions you know, that I had taken and the effects. So, and you're feeling it from the other person's point of view, but you can see them at the same time. It's like a dual thing. I don't know how it works. It's weird. The laws of physics are very different in non-physical reality versus where we are, you know, on planet Earth. So I got to go through these things. I saw some good stuff that I'd done, like rescuing a kitten, running out into traffic and rescuing a kitten when I was like 18 and nearly got killed doing it. A kid I helped in school. I saw some good things. I was short with my mother, you know, smart mouth with her, and I felt, you know, the sting of it, you know, from her point of view. So, okay, I go through the life's review. I see my actions. Don't feel proud, but I wasn't a serial killer or anything. I didn't hurt puppies and kittens or anything, but I could still feel the impact. And I was really surprised at the small things, the impact that you can have in someone else's life. And I also learned, I learned a lesson doing this, and a realization that if I ever came back, I would try to do no harm to anybody else. And I really got the baddest thing you can do is not screw up your own life, is interfere in somebody else's destiny, interrupt a destiny of another person. So this is what part of me had, this realization, this understanding or new perspective. You really wreck somebody's life, you're going to feel every ounce, every bit when you die and you go through your review of your actions. It's like floating in a sea of love, bliss. I had no wants. I had no regrets. It was being wrapped in love and floating through this cloud-like place. And you'd burst through the clouds, and it was bright, bright light, but it didn't hurt your vision. But there wasn't a sun. And there is music, classical music that I've never heard in my life here on Earth, from different instruments floating through like in random waves, like being like brushed with music. So I'm floating in the sea of love. And I'm thinking, what is surrounding me? I felt cradled, that it was a big place. And I didn't know what it was exactly. All I knew is I was glad to be there. And thinking about it now with a 63-year-old brain, I call it source. Other people might, you know, they've gone to heaven or something, but I think it's my origin. And the souls that were around me, that were the cradlers of my consciousness or my body or whatever you want to call it, me, the Laura Kethledge me, felt familiar. I could known these souls. And it was so more than what I'm saying, that there isn't words. There's no feeling of bliss like this, but the feeling that I had no wants, no regrets, that I was in the moment, and that I was floating in a sea of love. I didn't know something like this could happen. I mean, you know, I'm looking, you know, and I'm not thinking for biblical references, because I sort of detached from religion when I was having this near-death experience. Thank goodness. So as soon as that, I'm like at peace with it. There's a shh, and I'm taking, you know, out of it. It doesn't get to last. And I'm going backwards, and I'm getting closer to physical reality, but not that close, because this bliss was as far as I went. I felt like I was at the end of my tether. And I'm being guided. Somebody's behind me, and I can hear whispering. I can't make out who it is. And there's this beautiful cathedral like ahead of me. I can't make out the floor, but there had to be a floor, but there wasn't. So go with that. And I look off to the right, and I see this off in the distance. It looked like, you know, almost not a cartoon, but something you'd see on like one of those sci-fi movies. It looked like planet Earth. And I thought to myself, oh God, I hate heights. Why did this have to happen? I hate heights. But I wasn't panicking, and I calmed myself down. Was that really Earth? I don't know. Was my mind perceiving this? I don't really know. There's so much more into non-physical reality that I don't think the brain can comprehend it. So I go ahead into this cathedral. I'm guided. I didn't really get a choice in the matter. And what's explained to me, like telepathy, like information, is that this is a place where my past lives are, you're going back. And, you know, I wanted to grab my grandfather's hand and just hold on and just like, you know, no, I'm not. I'm staying here with him. I want to stay. I had lost all interest. I felt less human. You know, I felt less human foibles, like, you know, and then I realized I had to go back, and I grabbed my grandfather's hand, and then I was start getting wrenched, and this wasn't good. And then everything around me was this mauve color. Didn't like it. Then there was black. And I was no longer with him or with all these good places. I wasn't getting guided. I was getting kidnapped. And then when I came back into my physical body, it was like with this thud, this thrust, and it didn't feel good. And then all of a sudden, pain. I was really hurt.